Hey guys, Mr. Horton here with virtual backup lessons for Studio Art 1, Studio Art 2, and film appreciation and cinematography.
All right, guys, so this is the second half of the first big project grade for Studio Art 2. This is going to be where I introduce shading to you guys. Now, you guys just finished working on your pencil line of your grid method portrait, which again, you can see my Wolverine right here. Now we are going to introduce the concept of shading. Okay, now before we get into this, I just want to be very clear with this, and I need this just to be out on the table. It is very possible some of you guys are going to very quickly and with minimal effort destroy your pictures in the event that you go too dark with too many pencils in too many places. It will completely wash out the picture. It will remove all tone and it'll flatten everything out, and the drawing will basically go away. But I have pictures of all of your drawings at this point, so worst case scenario, we at least have an image of what your drawing looks like. Okay, now, shading. Number one, your pencils at the top here. You guys have in your bags 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pencils. Okay, you have the 4H, you have the number 2, you have the 3B and 6B, and you have the ebony. Okay, in terms of dark shadows, the lightest shadows are 4H, followed by the number 2 HB. I put 3B and 6B together only because if you look here, you visually can't really tell a difference in the dark tone. You also really can't tell a dark tone in the ebony. Ebony's the darkest. The only difference between these three pencils is texture, for the most part. It's that this is a little bit gruff. You'll notice the 6B moves a little bit smoother, and the ebony really moves, and to the point where it's so smooth that it's actually going to glossy, almost reflect light. Okay? So for the most part, we're going to treat this like you definitely have these two tones. You have a light, you have a middle, and then I'm going to kind of just treat these three as three together. Okay? And if you have to use one of these three, I would say let's split it and just focus on the 6B. So you have three tones. Now, you have the ability to, via pressure, alter the tone on any one pencil. So this is the 4H twice. This is the 4H pressing lightly. This is the 4H pressing dark. So if you go back to these pencils again, you could potentially have 10 tones. 4H light, 4H dark, number 2 light, number 2 dark, 3B light, 3B dark, 6B light, 6B dark, ebony light, ebony dark. That's ridiculous because nobody would do that, but because ebony's the darkest pencil. Now, in terms of how to blend your lines together, which I'm going to show you in a second over here, but in terms of blending, you guys have, number one, you guys have blending stumps. These are in your bags. They look like this, okay? When you blend with a blending stump, you have two ways to do it. You can blend with the diagonal of the point, which is going to spread a lot, or if you need minute detail, you can do it with the point. You do not want to use, so say for example, this blender touched a 6B. You do not want to use that darkened 6B blender then on an area that has 4H, because what's going to happen is the 6B is going to carry that shadow into the 4H area and tone the 4H up to something closer to a number 2 or a 1B. Okay, so please just, if you have a blender you're using on a certain shadow, you use it on that shadow and you kind of put it to the side and make sure you maybe label it. This is the one I used on 6B, yada yada. Okay. The next way to do it is DIY method. So if you run out of blenders, just take a paper towel and you fold it. And basically just keep folding it till you can't fold it no more. Okay? So I'm just going to literally keep folding this until I get it to like almost like a paper football kind of thing. And you're going to use this rounded edge, and then you're going to use the corners here and here for detail points. But this is a simple way to just blow through blending, and this will really move stuff depending on the grit of the paper towel. Number 3, and this is the way that I usually do it, is I use my finger. Now, because if you're depending on how greasy your skin is, it'll move the stuff more than other ways. Okay, so 3 ways to blend. Now, shadow. This is a sphere. We're going to imagine lights coming in from a diagonal on this fake surface. So I am going to start always with my lightest shadow, which is my 4H. So if I was simulating this, it would probably look like this, the shadow area. I would have a curve, okay? And I would do it again. It would almost look like a bumblebee butt, if you want to think of it that way. And I'm going to color this in with the 4H pencil. So where light's directly touching, I'm just leaving that the paper. Okay, so my first shadow is a 4H. Then I'm going to move to a number 2 pencil. And I'm going to color that in. That's going to be the next shadow, moving towards my dark levels. Okay, mid-tone. Okay, and then lastly, again, if I'm working with 3 tones, and I told you guys maybe work with a 4H, a number 2, and a 6B. So I'm now going to put this one in. And you should be able to clearly see these 3 tones. Okay, yeah, so there we go. Light, middle, dark. Now the next thing I'm going to put in is my ground shadow. Now my ground shadow is going to be stretched depending on the light source, but it's going to look something like this. Okay, and I'm going to color that in with, again, still using the 6B. Now, in terms of blending, I'm going to take the blender. All right, and again, I'm using that diagonal. And I'm going to kind of just press with the line. I'm going to stay in the area. I'm going to do like a little bit of swirls. The more pressure I put on the blender, the more it's going to actually blend. You can already see it looks a little bit smokier now. You can see how dark the blender is right here. I'm going to flip it over to the other end now, or I'm going to move it to the clear end on the same side, and I'm going to do the next tone. And again, same thing. I'm just going to kind of move it. I'm going to move a little bit more into the 4H from the number 2 pencil. And again, you can already see it. Look, there it goes. And then I'm going to move to the other end, the clear end, when I get to the 6B, because the 6B is the one that's really going to carry. Okay, there we go. I'm going to shade in I'm going to blend in the ground shadow. Okay. Now, my next step. This is one you guys often don't think about. At this point, I'm going to take my eraser. Everyone's going to have to erase this. And you're going to go through, and you have to edge out the smokiness that you don't want in the picture. So go through and edge out the smokiness. That anything that puffs out. So say, for example, you had a smear like that. I'm going to go through with an eraser. The more you do it, the dirtier you're going to get. And then finally, I'm going to go back through with my number 2 pencil or the 4H. Again, it depends on what you want to do. And I'm going to re-edge out my spacing lines, my lines, just so they pop a little bit more. Okay? Maybe I might take my finger and just smooth that out too. I'm going to take my eraser and maybe erase out where the light's exactly touching, just so that's very pure. The last part of this, I'm giving you guys, you should have these already. I probably gave them to you. I gave you guys a charcoal pencil. You either have a charcoal pencil or you have a charcoal rod, which is going to look like a white charcoal rectangle. For you guys at home, you guys have a white color pencil. The difference between the white color pencil is here and the charcoal is here. The charcoal's a little bit more stark, okay? So I'm going to use that charcoal anywhere that light is kind of reflecting on the subject. It's not going to be everywhere that light exactly touches, but it is going to be where light is reflecting. And light's going to be reflecting at the furthest point from the shadow, which is over here. And I'm going to be careful when I blend this because all of these tones are grays. So if these grays touch that white, it's going to make this white look really, really gray. Okay? There you go. There's a sphere. Now, continue on to the next YouTube video to see how to apply this to your project.